Welcome to all. In this session, we will see operating system structures and how an operating system is, made up of, and what are the system concept, components available for OS. Okay, the goal of the system must be well defined before the design begins. Obviously, it is not just for an operating system. If you are building any application also, if you do not have the actual goals, or if you do not make a set of goals before writing the code, then it may not give a better result, because ultimately before writing any code or before creating any application or before developing any softwares, we should list out all the requirements, parameters, and goals, whatever required by the end user, or as a developer, what are the major goals you have to meet. Okay, the next point is an operating system may be viewed from several vantage points. So ultimately, in the previous video I said that there are mainly two types of views. One is user view and another one is system view. But here, see, they have listed out some. First one is service that it provides. Obviously, before writing any program or before developing any applications, as well as before creating any operating system, first it has to see that what are the services it has to provide. Second thing is interface for the user program. So how that operating system provides an interface so that application can be run on that, isn't it? See, as a developer, as a programmer, you people write the code and you create the application. That application has to be run on the operating system, isn't it? So that means operating system should provide the proper interface so that the developed application has to be run above that. So that is the reason why it is also a one kind of view from the operating system point of view. Okay, the third one is disassembling the system into its component and their interconnections. So after disassembling is nothing but see, in operating system, whenever I say there will be so many modules. So each and every module has got its own work. So it may be hardware component modules, or network module, or file management module, or data storing or manipulation module, and so many modules are available in operating system. And ultimately, if the data has to move from one module to another module, there has to be some interconnection. That interconnection has to be proper. Otherwise, your application or your operating system may not run well, or it may stuck somewhere, or it may throw some errors, or it may not compatible for some of the application where your application needs to be run on that particular platform. So there are so many viewpoints, isn't it? So ultimately, the third point is disassembling of the system, as well as that interconnection has to be well defined. That is the meaning. Now next we can see the system components. Okay, we can create a system as large and complex as an operating system only by partitioning it into smaller pieces, obviously. So if you want to go for the better application, or if you want to build one large software, first your requirement will be to catalyze that particular entire system into so many pieces. And usually in companies and in developing area, what they do, if they want to build some bigger application, they catalyze that particular complex problem into so many pieces, and each and every pieces will be given to some teams, the developer, where the developer are trying to write the code. So each and every developer will be having their own module, and they will be developing their own module, and ultimately they are going to integrate all the module into one, and they are going to get the better application or software. That is the meaning. Okay, so that is the reason why they said that complex system can be made into so many pieces, so that it will be easier to develop. The first one is process management. Okay, in the previous video I already said that what is a process, isn't it? Now how to manage the process, we can see this is one of the system components in operating system architecture, or structure, I can say. A program does nothing unless its instructions are executed by the CPU. Obviously, if you are not giving the instruction to CPU, how you are going to run the application, isn't it? Each and every application has to be given to the CPU. Instructions are nothing but the code, lines of code. We can think of that as well. Whenever you write any programming, each and every line has its own code, right? So each and every line will be having a code. A code is nothing but an instruction also. Okay, so you have to think in that perspective. A process can be thought of as a program in execution. So process is nothing but an application, or a program which is already being running. Okay. A process needs certain resources including CPU time, memory, files, and IO devices to accomplish its task, obviously. So if it may be any program or any application or any software, obviously it requires resources, isn't it? That is the reason why you see, whenever you write a C program also, you will be trying to access the resources. It may be hardware resource. Obviously you need a keyboard to get the input. Obviously you need monitor to display the output. That is nothing but you are trying to access the resources, isn't it? In the background, what you actually are doing, you are trying to allocate memory. Obviously you need a storage thing, isn't it? Next, you will be creating your own C files or compiled files, and you will be giving that files to the interpreter, or you are going to give that particular files to the system, so that it can process and it can get the output, isn't it? So that means whatever the program you create or whatever the application you create, obviously it requires the resources. That is the meaning here. Okay. The next thing is, see, process is an active entity with a program counter. See the program counter, PC. Okay. See, program counter is nothing but, program counter will keep track of each and every thing which is being run, or which is in execution. We have to think in that way. See, PC or program counter, you are going to learn in depth actually in this subject only. You will see that concept of PC or program counter. Okay, ultimately it is a kind of variable or incrementer. Okay, incrementing variable. So it will be keep on incrementing or decrementing. It will be keep on varying. So you as of now, you just think that much. Okay, specifying in the next instruction to execute. Obviously, see that is what I said. So whatever the instructions you have, set of instructions or lines of code, so this PC will keep track of it. So it has to decrement or it has to increment. So based on the number of instructions, or based on the control loop, how your program is running, so this PC will keep track of it in the background. Okay. The execution of process must be sequential. So obviously until and unless it is sequential only, but if you are giving any constraints in the code, then definitely it can jump its lines of code to any part of the program. The CPU executes one instruction of the process after another until the process completes. So it is the work of CPU, central processing unit, how it has to execute the instruction. Based on that particular criteria only, this CPU is going to execute the processes. Okay. Next, a process is the unit of work in a system. Okay, so obviously if the question arises like what is a process, so you can define in a process in many ways. Okay, see in this line they said that it is a unit of work in a system. In some lines they will say that the program which is in a current execution state, isn't it? Or process is nothing but a kind of application which is running in the system. So there are so many definitions you can give, but ultimately a process is nothing but right now what actually happening, or what execution is being done in that particular platform. That is nothing but a process, and each and every process has got its own ID. You have to remember this. That is nothing but PID, process ID. Okay. Such a system consists of collection of processes, some of which are operating system processes, and the rest of which are user processes. That means, see, process, whenever you think of process, it is not just for the user, it is for the system also. Even see in say for example, if you are accessing Windows operating system, or Windows system with the operating system, a system with the Windows operating system, you can see there will be so many system files, isn't it? So system will be having its own processes which are being run in the background. And as a user, if you develop any application or if you write any code, and if you want to execute that particular code in that OS, then definitely you are giving your own process. You are going to create CPU will create a separate process for you as a end user, or it will consider it as a user process, whatever the code you have given to that system. So that means there are actually mainly two processes. One process is from the operating system side, another from user side. Okay, you have to think in that way. Fine. The next thing is, the operating system is responsible for the following activities. in connection with the process management. The first one is creating and deleting both user and system processes. So what is this? Operating system will take care of it. Okay, so in this system component points, there are almost 10 to 11 points are there, and each and every component has got its own work, and each and every component's work will be taken care by operating system. You have to think in that way. Each and everything is interconnected. Okay, the first point is creating and deleting both user and system processes. Who will take care of it? Operating system will take care of it. Okay, the second point is suspending and resuming processes. See, suspending, sometimes see you have to pause the application, or you have to pause the ongoing processes. Who will pause it? A system will pause it. Who will resume it after some time? If you want to resume that particular process, definitely OS will take care of it. Okay, providing mechanisms for process synchronization. Obviously, see, in one platform, if there are so many processes are being run, there should be some synchronization, isn't it? Otherwise your system may crash. If your system is going to crash, then definitely you won't be happy, or you won't consider such kind of operating system for your friend, or for the next installation. So that means, as an operating system, it has to take care of the synchronization work as well. That is the meaning. Next, providing mechanism for process communication. So how to communicate between two processes? You have to think. See, in some of the movies you would have seen. See, I obviously, while explaining, definitely I will take the concept of hacking movies also only, because see, in those visually you would have seen so many things. Have you ever seen how to send the message from one terminal to another terminal? In some of the movies you would have seen, if one person will be sitting in front of the system and he will be trying to write some codes, and if he wants to send a message to a nearby system, or the system which is in the same room or same LAN connection, using a terminal he used to send the message, isn't it? That is also kind of intercommunication between the processes, because in this system also he will be having a terminal, in that system also there will be a separate terminal, and he is trying to trigger the particular message from source to destination. This is something like interconnection, isn't it? There's an intercommunication between two terminals. So this can be also an example I can give for the process communication. Okay, next thing is providing mechanism for deadlock handling. See, deadlock is a concept, and it is very important concept in operating system. Okay, deadlock in general, in a brief I am going to tell now, because deadlock in future concepts you are going to learn in depth. But deadlock is nothing but, see, if you have some resources, and if you want some more resources, something like, see, there are two members, and one member A has got some word, say for example good, and second member will be having a word like morning. Okay, ultimately their message should be like good morning. Then obviously member A will wait for the member B to give his word, that is nothing but morning, so that he can publish that message good morning. Member B will wait for member A, so that member A can give that particular word good to member B, so that member B can run execute that particular message good morning. So ultimately both are trying to wait for the resources. Just an example I have given. This is just a simple example, but in terms of operating system will wait for the resources. It may be keyboard, mouse, or any processes to execute, or user intervention. So it will be waiting for so many things. Ultimately there is a concept where the processes will be keep on waiting for the longer duration. So that time CPU will be idle, isn't it? Because you are not giving the work to CPU, means definitely it will be idle. So that kind of state is called deadlock. Okay, ultimately if the processor trying to or waiting for the particular resources from the another process, then definitely that state, a waiting state or that stuck state, is called as deadlock. Okay, so in depth you will learn it, and there will be some problems also, I guess, in your syllabus. They have given that, I hope. So we will solve all those things, but as of now you think this much. The second one is main memory management. See, whenever we talk about memory, there are mainly two types of memory, isn't it? One is RAM, another one is ROM. So RAM is nothing but a primary memory, and ROM is nothing but the secondary memory. So what is the actual difference? See, RAM is volatile, isn't it? ROM is not volatile, or secondary memory is not volatile. See, what you mean by volatile? See, whatever the content present in RAM, once the power goes off, or if you shut down your system after switching on the system, you may not get that data, isn't it? See, I can give a simple example over here. See, you are using your cell phone. By mistake, if you are going to switch off your phone, see, for example, in your phone you are trying to play some games. Say, for example, you are playing PUBG. Right now PUBG is banned, right? Okay, let us take the example of Clash of Clans. You are running the game Clash of Clans. Okay, in between, due to some reason, you are going to switch off your phone. When you switch on, you are going to see your home screen, not the Clash of Clans game, isn't it? Maybe that data will be stored in the server, that is a separate part of story. But whenever you switch on, first page will be your home screen. Why it is like that? Because whatever the application you are running, mainly it will be in RAM. Once you power off your system or that switch off your system, and after switching on, that application will not be there in the memory, isn't it? That is nothing but volatile. But in case of secondary memory, it is not like that. Or in ROM, it is not like that. You can keep the files in a secondary memory for the longest duration, or unless you want to delete that application or any files or folders, it will be residing in that secondary memory. That is the main difference, isn't it? So let us see here. Main memory is central to the operation of a modern computer system. Main memory is a large array of words or bytes ranging in size from hundreds to thousands of billions, isn't it? So it will be definitely, because of based on the amount you give, based on the device you purchase, based on that your main memory will be ranging. Second point is, each word or byte has its own address. Main memory is a repository of quickly accessible data shared by CPU and IO devices. Definitely, each and every memory will be having its own unique address. Based on that address itself, you are going to access a particular memory. See, you can recall your C programming. How you actually try to store some data in a variable. How you are going to fetch it? You are going to use scanf, isn't it? Scanf followed by in the double quotes %d if you are trying to access the integer value from the user. And after that, comma, ampersand, your variable name. What is that ampersand or and symbol? What is it actually? You are trying to access the memory location, isn't it? You are trying to give this particular, or if you are trying to keep whatever the value entered by the user, that value will go and sit in that particular memory position. That is the meaning, isn't it? That is the reason why you are going for that and symbol. Can you recall all those previous things? So ultimately, each and every memory will be having its own address. Based on that address only, you are going to keep the data, or you are going to retrieve the data, or you are going to delete, or flush out the data present in the storage. That is the meaning. So ultimately, there has to be the connection, or the CPU and IO devices will mainly concentrate on the main memory, because compared to secondary memory, main memory is faster and costlier as well. Okay, you have to remember this. Third point is, for a program to be executed, it must be mapped to absolute address and loaded into memory. That is what just I was giving the example of Clash of Clans. Ultimately, if you want to load any application or any software in a memory, which has to be executed, obviously that application or software has to be come into this RAM or main memory. Based on that only. Now, how to fetch it? Obviously using the address, isn't it? If you want to keep any application in a main memory or in the RAM, obviously OS has to fetch the actual address of that particular file. Then only you can run that particular application on the main memory or RAM. Okay, that is the meaning. Okay, as the program executes, it accesses the program instructions and data from memory by generating these absolute addresses. So obviously that is nothing but, see, everything plays a major role here. Okay, in operating system, each and everything is important. Ultimately, whenever we are dealing with the storage, obviously address plays a major role. You have to remember this. Eventually, the program terminates, its memory space is declared available, and the next program can be loaded and executed. Obviously, once you are done with your application execution, you are going to quit or you are going to close that application. Obviously, RAM will be free, and you can take some other application, or you can run some other softwares in that particular RAM. So if I want to give some simple examples over here, if you are not flushing your RAM, obviously your system becomes slow, isn't it? Have you ever seen, say for example, in the background, if you are trying to run 15 to 20 application, if possible, if you are running 15 to 20 applications, obviously your system will hang, or it will slow down its performance. Why? Because of the RAM consumption or main memory consumption. That is the meaning. Okay, the next point is the operating system is responsible for following some points. I have listed some points. See, first point is keeping track of which part of memory are currently being used by used and by whom. So obviously if say in RAM you can run multi programs, isn't it? So many programs can be run on main memory. So obviously operating system has to keep track, isn't it, which application is being run, which should be the next application, which application is being accessed by the user is trying to play which application, or he's trying to use which application, from which address location that application has come to main memory. Each and everything has to be keep track. That operating system will do it. You don't need to worry. As a user, you don't need to worry, but it will be the work of operating system. That is the meaning. The second point is deciding which processes are to be loaded into memory when memory space becomes available. That also decided by operating system, because based on some priorities, it may be based on the urgency of the application, based on the data which is being provided to the application, or based on the user will, in some cases user will select, isn't it? He will just, there will be so many application will be running in the background, and user will directly access a particular application, isn't it? But whenever a user try to access that application, operating system has to be ready for that particular thing. That is the meaning. The third thing is allocating and deallocating memory space as needed. Obviously, some application may require much memory, and some application may require less memory. So ultimately, allocating and deallocating of the memory has to be taken care by application. Operating system. The best example is, see, your calculator application may require small amount of memory, but in the same fashion, your some big games, like say if you are trying to play some Candy Crush, or I'm talking just about the smartphones, not systems, but maybe you are running some games, or heavy graphically rich games. So obviously it requires more space, and it is the job of operating system to keep track of that particular space, isn't it? So you don't need, as a user, as an end user, it is not your work. Obviously it is the work of operating system. That is the meaning. Okay. The next thing is file management. So obviously, whenever we talk about operating system, whenever we talk about computer, whenever we talk about smartphones, whenever we talk about tablets, obviously there will be so many files, isn't it? You would have seen, see, there is a separate file called folder called Android in your file manager. Each and every smartphone has got that particular that folder. Inside the folder you will be having some subfolders, and inside the subfolders you will be having some files. Who has created? Did you create? Definitely not, isn't it? Whenever you switch on your phone, automatically those files are being loaded or being created. And you can see, I don't know how many of you have the habit of plugging your pen drive to your smartphones. If you plug in your pen drive to your smartphone, there also in USB, in pen drive also, there will be a separate folder will be created with the name Android. How? Who is going to create it? Obviously, these things are taken care by operating system. If I talk about smartphone, definitely Android operating system will take care of it. If I talk about Windows, definitely Windows operating system will take care of it. If I talk about Ubuntu, or if I talk about Red Hat or Kali, or Fedora, or any Linux based or Linux flavored operating systems, definitely those operating system will take care of it. Or if I talk about Mac, obviously Mac has its own operating system, isn't it? So each and everything will be taken care by operating system, because without files your system is useless. Each and everything is file, and all the data is vital. All the data has to be stored somewhere, and efficiently it has to be maintained, and operating system will take care of it. That is the meaning. Okay, let us see what is the content they have given here. File management is one of the most visible component of an operating system. Obviously, I don't need to explain this line, because if you have used your laptop or PC, obviously there will be so many files, so many folders, so many files with the different extensions. It may be exe, it may be txt, it may be docs, it may be pptx, it may be xlx, isn't it? There are so many. So it may be video files, audio files, image files, graphic files, isn't it? And you are creating as a developer, if you are creating, if you are writing C programming, definitely file name .c, isn't it? That is extension. You are going to give .c extension. Maybe in this semester or in this year, second year, you are going to learn C++ also. Then definitely it will be .cpp, correct? So there are so many. If you are in the next year, you are going to learn Java, definitely file name .java, Java extension. If you are writing the code, if you are writing Java code, definitely it will be Java extension. If you are writing C#, definitely it will be file name .cs. So there are so many files which are being present in the operating system, in the system. Okay, all these files has to be maintained by the operating system. Okay, computers can store information on several different types of physical media. Magnetic tape, magnetic disc, and optical disc are the most common media. So this line is actually a vintage one. So now we are actually have the hard disk concepts: external hard disk, internal hard disk, USB drives, and memory cards, and we can store the data in cloud, isn't it? There are so many options. You can use USB cable to transfer the data from your system to your phone, and you can make use of DVDs or CDs. There are so many things. So many things. Yeah. So whenever I talk about systems, you can store the data, or you can pass the files, and you can store the files in any external media. Okay, the next thing is, for convenient use of the computer system, the operating system provides a uniform logical view of information storage. Okay. So what's the meaning of this sentence? See, think of your personal PC, okay, personal computer or laptop, or in the system which you are using in your lab. Okay, whenever you double click on my computer, you are going to see some drives, isn't it? C drive, D drive, E drive. And below that you can see the bar, status bar, like what is the amount of storage you have already stored, and what is the free amount, isn't it? It will be in a blue color usually. Actually, what is it? It is nothing but the graphical representation, isn't it? Whenever you double click on that drive, you are being taken to that particular drive, and you will see so many files stored by you, or some administrator or anyone. Ultimately, what you are doing, actually, that is nothing but the graphical representation, and that bar is filled based on the free memory, or the memory used, or the files where these in the memory, the files which are stored in the memory, based on the content or based on the size of that file, this particular bar will keep on changing. If you format your drive, what happens? All that bar will be empty, isn't it? Correct? That blue color, it will completely vanish, and it will show that entire drive is free. You can store this many number of GB of data, isn't it? Ultimately, it is a graphical representation. That is what they said in that second point. It's a logical view of information stored. Correct? It is just a logical one. It is not a physical concept over there. Whenever you double click, you will be taken inside that particular drive, and you are going to view the files. Okay, the next point is, a file is a collection of related information defined by its creator. Commonly, file represent programs and data. Data files may be numeric, alphabetic, or alphanumeric. Okay, whenever you create any application, create any files, obviously so many data or so many information will be stored. See, whenever you create a file, the file permission will be set, file creation date will be set, file the owner who has created the file, that information will be set, and size of the file will be set. Then that separate ID, one ID will be set for that particular file, so that that file can be accessed by the operating system, or operating system can manipulate or manage that file. So separate one ID will be set for that file, and file name will be there, and so many information will be set. Okay, when modification date also can be possible. Once you create the file, creation date, and once you modify that particular file, modification, it will update the modification date. Okay, so these are the things which are taken care by the actually operating system will take care of all these things. Okay, so that is what they have just listed over there. Now some of the responsibilities. First one is creating and deleting of files. Obviously operating system will take care of this. To create any file, operating system is required. To delete any delete any file, operating system is required. Okay, creating and deleting directories. Obviously, what is the difference between directory and a file? Can you recall these things? File is individually you can create a file, but when I talk about directory, obviously it will be in a hierarchical format, isn't it? There will be root root node or root directory. From root directory you will be having so many subdirectories or subfolders, and inside the subfolders there will be n number of files, and ultimately it will be in one tree structure or hierarchical structure, isn't it? So creating the directory and deleting the directory, both are taken care by operating system. Now the next thing is supporting primitives for manipulating files and directories. Okay, if you want to manipulate the files, if you want to delete the content from the file, if you want to add the content to the file, or if you want to resize the file, or if you want to compress the file, if you want to decompress the file, if you want to zip it, if you want to unzip it, all the things, whatever the things you deal with the files or folders or directories, it is being done using operating system. You have to remember this. Okay, mapping files into secondary storage. What is this secondary storage? So if you have a large folder or files, you are going to keep those files in a secondary storage, or hard disk or ROM. You are not going to keep all those files in the RAM. RAM will be active when you double click and when you take that particular file for the execution. Execution is nothing but, so you may ask, sir, each and every file, where I will be executing each and every file? Because if I have a text file, there is no concept of execution. If I have docs, there is no concept of application execution, isn't it? But obviously when you double click on that text file, where you are going to see that text information, it may be in Notepad, it may be in WordPad, it may be in MS Word, isn't it? Obviously Notepad is an application, WordPad is an application, MS Word is an application. So ultimately you are going to on that particular application, and inside the application you will be seeing the textual content which is being stored in that file. So ultimately RAM also required to view RAM or main memory is required to view the content present in the file, and all these circuits are taken care by operating system. You have to remember like this. Okay, the next, last but not the least, backing up files on stable storage media, non-volatile. Non-volatile means whenever you hear about the word non-volatile with respect to storage, directly you have to think that it is a hard disk or USB or secondary storage or ROM. Fine, it is not RAM, ROM. Fine. So non-volatile means even though power goes off, even though you shut down your system, even though switch off your phone, files will be stored in that storage. Whenever you get back to the system, you can access the files. So backing up file is nothing but you are going to keep or you are going to save the file, and you are going to keep all those content or information to that particular platform or in the storage. That is the meaning, and this is taken care by operating system. Okay, so these are the basic information I just wanted to tell about file management. So let me wind up the video here. I am going to put a separate video for the rest of the components. So there are maybe 10 to 11 system components. So if I do all the components in one video, it will be very longer, longest video. So that is the reason why I am just going to cut these things into parts. Okay, so let me wind up here, and rest of the information I will give in the next video. Thanks for watching.